Hey everybody, welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sol.
I'm Bogz.
We're not doing a D23 trailer, so it's fantastic. We're here to talk about episode 4 of House of the Dragon on HBO Max. We didn't have as big of a time jump, I think, with this one. This one only felt like maybe a few months. They weren't.
It was 1 year.
Was it 1 year? Because they weren't. It wasn't super clear.
Because the last episode was Aegon was 2 years old, and then they said like Babe of 3 in like the street performance.
Oh, okay.
So it was and then I think too because Daemon was just like, oh, it's been 4 years since I've seen you, so you have to kind of do the math in your head, and you're like, oh, it's
I was told to do math. So about a 1 year time jump. It seems like things have transpired to where Rhaenyra is on much better terms with Alicent now, but things with her and her dad with the king are pretty tense because she's just not on board with the whole trying to find a husband thing. We get a kid who is basically the embodiment of F around and find out in the beginning. Straight up kills a dude. And then we get into some stuff that's just kind of very quintessential Game of Thrones in how some relationships are formed. It was a lot, but I think it was a good episode. Bogz, I'm gonna start with you. How did you feel about this episode?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. Probably my favorite so far. Yeah, so much character kind of development. Via the political family dynamics. Obviously, a lot of disturbing things happening. But that's, like you said, that's Game of Thrones, and seeing kind of Daemon's manipulation of the situation. Because as soon as he appeared, I thought, what's his plan? Like, what's he doing here? Because obviously, how the last episode ended, he reacted to his father, his brother, giving him support, right, to take over, the crab feeders. So him kind of returning, and then seeing what plays out, really disturbing. But I do kind of like my disturbing characters, so I did kind of enjoy it. And then seeing how she reacted afterwards with her father just so easily lying as well. And just all went down. But for me, Paddy Considine steals the show, as well. On top of what happened, he's my favorite character in it. And I thought it was great. And not that much action in it, apart from the kid at the start, dueling for Rhaenyra and stuff. Apart from that, there's no real action in it. Not too much blood spilled this episode. But I still thoroughly enjoyed it. Lots of, like I say, character development. And it was intriguing. I was gripped every scene, because everything that happens in a scene, it's like, oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? Like, do these thoughts contradict each other? And then kind of something else happens. And then that gives a different theory. So you're kind of predicting every scene. So it was really engaging, I felt.
Yeah, this was again, not an action heavy episode, but they used their time very well. I mean, there was not a scene wasted in this.
And I think it was a longer episode as well.
I think you're
like
right.
1:13 with credits, so 1 hour 13.
So. A little bit longer than the last few, but again, there was not a scene wasted in this. And good. I mean, Matt Smith was so good in this episode. He was so good. I thought, it's like he and Paddy Considine are trying to out-act each other. Like they're trying to see, like, I'm going to be the best in the show. No, I'm going to be the best in the show. You want it? Okay. And I'm cool with that. Please. It just makes for better content. Sol, as the one who's familiar with the book this is based on, just how did you feel about this? And how did you feel about how it played out in relation to how it works in the book?
I love this episode, even with there's some things that they switch up from like the book, but as I've said before, the book kind of reads like a textbook, and it's written from the perspective of a maester. There's a jester that comes into that, so like it's people's perspectives, so it's kind of like this might be true. So it's cool to see like some things that are changing a bit from the book, and you're like, I think I might like this more. But knowing what happens like further on, this was definitely the calm before the storm, the we're setting everything up for the rest of the season kind of episode. This is a very important episode. And I was like, I can see if someone who doesn't know what's coming forward or is not having like some theories might have found this episode to be a little slow. But to me, it wasn't slow. It was kind of like that build-up machination, political machination type of episode that I kind of love to watch. So I really enjoyed this episode a lot.
I'm with Bogz. Like, I think this might be my favorite one we've had so far. I mean, just the set pieces, the writing, the acting. I mean, it all delivers on just every level. The political intrigue is great. Seeing how once again in every episode, the king is just, you can tell he's just kind of losing it a little bit more as he goes, and so having that moment with where he finally just tells Damon, just like, we're done, like we are done. He did just welcomed him back into his good graces, and everything was looking fine, and he's just like, no, I don't care if this is true or not. Regardless, like, the fact that you were even in a situation where this could be true, it's done, it's over with. And the way things go down with Rhaenyra, which, okay, apparently Game of Thrones has a plan B system for things like this, because when the guy walked in with a little glass vial, yeah, I was just like, that's no. And then when he says, I was just like, oh, okay, we're going there. That's kind of been a bit of a through line in this season, when between how the king handled the attempted C-section of with the queen in the first episode, and now to this moment where it's like, wow, they are really exploring just how in charge of things the men are in this world. I mean, because in Game of Thrones that's always kind of been a thing, but especially now because we're 200 years in the past, so they're really exploring it. But I'm also shocked to see that we still have the same actress playing young Rhaenyra this week, and based on the preview for next week, because I watched it this time, she's still here halfway into the season. So as far as all that goes, Bogz, what did you think with how they were handling kind of this dynamic between the king and his brother and the king and Rhaenyra?
Absolutely fascinating, to be honest. With the brother situation, yeah, like how the king handled it, like I wouldn't want to be him in that situation. I mean, how do you handle it? I mean, I have a feeling he's had them kind of conversations before with him, like, oh, I'm done with you. But now it was like overstepping the mark with his daughter, obviously with his, with his niece, and all that went down. Taking her through the kind of pleasure house and using sex as a tool, as a part of manipulation and kind of grooming in effect, and then asking for her hand in that way, where other people are coming politely in a medieval kind of way and dueling in effect. He's used his his relationship with her as a tool, to kind of groom her. And then obviously what went down with her and the knight, sorry, I forgot his name. So that kind of, he's right, you ruined her. That's what he said to him, right? That's what the king said to Daemon, you ruined her, as in, she's now not as innocent, mentally, I'm referring to. So yeah, and then because instantly she was lying, to Alicent and to the king, and saying even their relationship, between Rhaenyra and the king, that what we say, like, we obviously, it's a common theme with royalty and the crown in medieval times, and of course in Game of Thrones, where what the crown says goes, what the crown says is law. So if the hand told you this, he needs to go. And we see these people influence the king again and again and again. Doesn't know what to do. Obviously, he sticks with his family and makes that decision to let him go, which is he put in the episode before this, I thought that'd be a good thing, but after what happened, and he's been totally truthful, I kind of felt sorry for him. That's how good the kind of character development is. And he obviously explained a little bit of his backstory, you know, how loyal he has been to the Kings, and, you know, they'll be forever indebted to him. And yeah, I just found it all fascinating. And yeah, the King, and there was a fantastic shot of the King and the Queen. I forgot, I think it's Alison, right?
Alison.
Before, you know, when she went to Rhaenyra and when he went to Daemon, they were kind of like in just on the edge of, so there was a balcony and there was a room that was kind of dimly lit, and it was daylight, the exterior was daylight, and they stood in between the hallway. So like he was standing half in the dark, half in the light, clearly representing like an unsure nature or his mental state. And yeah, so, and they were both, you know, she handed him the kind of wine, and I just thought that was a great shot. It looks beautiful, you know, it was all dark and apart from the doorway, and so he did, you know, doesn't know whether to go through the door or stay in the dark with it, or, you know, make difficult decisions to believe this rumor that is presented to him, or to, you know, to kind of you know, make that breakthrough and, you know, punish them or do whatever. He's kind of stuck in the middle, conflicted. So he's decided to back his daughter based on her word, which is a complete lie. And that character moment changed in that pleasure house. So yeah, all of that, again, fascinating. Every scene I loved, and yeah, it was a really, really good episode. And again, Paddy Constantine steals the show.
Yeah, there's a saying where they say that there's 3 sides to every story. There's person A side, person B side, and there's what really happened. And we see so much of that in this episode, where we see what actually happens, and then there's the lie Rhaenyra is telling, and then there's kind of, because even Daemon kind of lies in his own way about why he did this or what actually happened. You know, people are accusing him of, oh, you slept with my daughter, and he's basically acting like, yeah, I did, because he doesn't want to.
He said, what does it matter?
Yeah, he said, why does it matter? But because he knows in the back of his mind he didn't, because he couldn't get it up, and so, but he doesn't want to admit that because it's Daemon Targaryen and his ego. He cares more about his ego and his conquesting, because he hates his wife, who we still haven't met. I'm actually kind of shocked. I'm kind of wondering if we're ever going to meet.
She's not very important.
Okay, cool. Well, then I don't care. Is she real? I'm just kind of curious. Like, is she really that bad? Like,
she's a complete background character.
Okay, well, but well, you know, hey, so was the janitor in Scrubs, and then he became a massive popular character. Yeah, and the stuff with the hand, like, I haven't even touched on that yet. Like, I just now understanding just how far back with this dynasty the hand Otto Hightower goes. So to you, Soul, I'll say, like, without spoiling what's going to come in the future, how do you feel about how they're using Otto Hightower in this telling of this story, and how do you feel about how they've developed kind of Rhaenyra's character from one episode to the next, to where we've gotten now, like Bogz mentioned, where she's just like, screw the truth, I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah, so with Otto Hightower, it was very interesting to see the way that, like, he gets rid of, like, he's no longer hand, because in the book it's very much, he keeps going, hey, Aegon should be heir, Aegon should be heir, and the king is very adamant about, no, Rhaenyra is my heir, and so he keeps doing like, hey, by the way, your son should be, it's better for the realm, and that's what gets him he's no longer hand. I think this way is better storytelling, because he is very much believing that his grandson should be heir, but he's playing it a little bit smarter in this show, but it's still showing to how smart Rhaenyra is, because she's seeing through it. And I said this before, and I'll say it again, that the king is a great father and a terrible king. And Daemon is right when he kind of like describes the king. When he described him as weak, he's a weak king. When he described him as people are going to manipulate you, that's the truth. When he's saying, I'm the only one who can protect you from these other people, like, that was kind of true. And Daemon, for all of his faults, he really truly does love his family, and he respects his brother, and that's why he they kind of give this pomp and circumstance of him coming in going like, oh, he's going to come in and battle his brother. But like for the book readers, it was very much like, no, he's coming to be like, the narrow sea is yours, the driftmark, like not driftmark, but the stepstone's yours. I give you my crown. Here's the crab feeder's weapon. Like, tries to get in his good graces, and because he does love his brother, and he loves Rhaenyra too. And I think he couldn't get it up because he was like, he respected his brother too much in a way. I think when she turned back around and realized this is my niece, this is the daughter of my brother, it kind of was like in that moment of like, and punch the wall, because it's just like he couldn't get it up because it was very much a I can't do this kind of thing. So it was between just those political machinations between like, and the brother too, like Daemon, we hear in the first episode, Otto Hightower is the one who says air for a day. We never hear Daemon say it. And then Otto Hightower is also saying, this is what happened in the brothel, which he's getting from Mysera, who's the White Worm. And it's very much of a, oh, he's just agreeing to whatever, because he's like, who cares? It's a waste of time to correct what's wrong, because what the king says is right is what's right. So who cares what my thoughts or anyone else's thoughts are? So it's very interesting, Daemon and Viserys together as brothers, because he really does love him in his own sick and twisted way.
Bogz, what do you think?
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know, like the scenes that, let's say, where they're making out in the pleasure house, and obviously all the kind of orgy stuff that's happening around them, juxtaposing to the king with his Alicent, with his wife, and how kind of like through the motions that was, just showing that kind of sex is a tool to manipulate people, to take what you want, to it's just a part of the game, just a part of the warfare, and showing that it can blur lines and things like that. And even marriage as well, like tying families and everything is all part of the kind of crown and the game to get to the top, because obviously as a consequence of what happened there, it's changed now with Daemon and the king and the daughter and the hand, and now Alicent's relationship with Rhaenyra, they kind of seem to mend, and obviously off the back of that lie, it's just all this all came from, like I said, there was no action in it. The action was the kind of sex around the episode. So they made that an integral part of the story, but they did it so good. So I think great direction all around, to be honest, on this episode. But yeah, it was fascinating with even though that, because like I noticed last episode there was obviously with Game of Thrones, tend to stand out, like the nudity, topless, whatever, naked, sex. There was nothing last episode, and this, it was like an overdose. So, but it was all relative and important to the story and character development. So there was so much to like about this episode.
I think too, you kind of, I think you're seeing it like in the male perspective, and I saw like in the female perspective of those two juxtaposing scenes, because I saw it from Alicent and from Rhaenyra, where like Alicent she can't deny her husband, and is there in like the face she's giving of like she's not reluctantly giving in to her husband.
Oh, it's late. Like she told the maid, I was late. Like telling me it's too late.
Right. And it's pretty much, you see that, and there's moments of just like looking, and the acting that happens without words, like of Alicent. She's not happy in her situation, and she doesn't really have any friends anymore, now being queen. And then you look at Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra gets to make that choice, and I think Alicent is very jealous of Rhaenyra in that sense, not in a like, oh, I'm gonna do bad towards her kind of jealousy, but kind of like, oh, she gets to choose who she gets to marry, or she's in that scene, she's choosing her uncle, kind of like in that, and then chooses someone else. And then it's kind of weird how it changes from the book, and I can get into that later. But the seeing like from the woman's point of view of a woman who doesn't get to choose who she has sex with, and a woman that does get to choose who she has sex with, that was very interesting for me.
It was, and also the way that Alicent is backing her, because as you said, she has no friends, she has no other support, she's just seen as this figure, now. So I think that's a part of just blindly accepting what she says, even
she's
though her
technically
dad's
correct.
still
She didn't sleep with him.
yeah. But the fact she said your dad is lying, you know, that's like you're accusing me, you know, that's treachery kind of thing. So she spins it to make out, you know,
Yeah.
like you know, it was completely innocent that they were just drinking and, you know, they went home. So and she believed it, and you know, she chose to believe that story, and even told her father to reassure his father, which doubled down on his decision about the hand, so helped him decide anyway. So
But
definitely a part
neither
of
were
that.
innocent in this at all.
No, they're all effed up, to be
It's
honest.
probably it's probably the smartest thing that the king has said the whole time, where he's like, look, she's not innocent. And I was like, look at you having your finger on the pulse a little bit here, because he's as
Sherlock Holmes over there.
Yeah, as a peacetime king, he's been a little kind of disconnected, or especially with his daughter, where his daughter's concerned, a little bit kind of just giving the benefit of the doubt. And this is kind of
probably because he's dying.
Maybe. Yeah.
But
He's
he's not thinking straight, is he, at all? So.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of this, because like we see like where he lost the fingers, it's still very like black. I think he's got like sepsis or something like that, and it's
you saw more scars on his back when he
sleeps on his front. Obviously,
he's on his front. He's got all these attendees who are trying to take care of him, like in the bath. And his wife just kind of like, get out. I'll take care of him, because he's just, you can tell he's in pain. Because even just the way he just looks like a guy who hasn't had a decent night's sleep in a long time, and it's probably from discomfort from his health. And it's interesting to see him finally getting like that first crack in the armor when it comes to how he handles things with Rhaenyra. And we have now officially started to see kind of the fall in their relationship that's going to eventually lead to this, you know, civil war within the family that we know is coming, because that's what takes them out and why they're not around in Game of Thrones. But now we're finally getting to see those seeds being planted of what's gonna lead to the fall of the House of the Dragon, which gets dropped quite a lot in this episode. And I kept finding myself going, credits.
You also mentioned the seeds, and I think that's what Daemon did to Rhaenyra there. He planted the seed in explaining you can take what you want, whether if it's you know, willingly, not willingly, whether if it's sex or whatever, because she did that to the knight. You know, she wanted him, and she took, you know, she had a way with him, whatever. So I think that's establishing her confidence in, okay, you're a princess, you know, you're next in line, and moving into wars and decision makings and marriage, she will be more authoritative now based on that, but in the right way, in the balanced way. Obviously not because she's doing it because she's lying to, you know, to the people of the crown as well. So again, loads of political intrigue, and it was really good.
And it's cool because I think it's also planted an idea in Rhaenyra's head that night, the night she spends with the knight. I think that she is now realizing, because she even mentioned, she's like, if I was a man, I could bed whoever I want, and no one would care. And she is now seeing that, yeah, sex can be used as a weapon, and I'm a woman, and let's be honest, guys want sex, and I can use that. And because I think
the show showed women do too.
Yeah, it did. But it showed that like she knew the knight wanted it. She knew he wanted it. And so she was able to kind of use it as bait on a hook. And I think that's going to be I think that might be, and I'm sure Soul's going to tell me how long I am for. Yeah. The next morning she was like, "Oh, I can make this useful. Oh, this is a dangerous weapon to have in my belt, and I love it." And I think that's going to be a thing, unless Soul tells me a million different ways that I'm wrong.
So what's interesting about this episode, and one of the reasons I was excited for this episode, is because like I saw the preview and I was like, oh, they're gonna go into this stuff, but they kind of changed it up from the books, and I kind of like it what they did. So I was telling Mike a little bit before we were doing this review, is there's a character called Mushroom who is which we haven't seen in the show yet, and he's a jester, and he kind of injects in the book to like, oh, here's how I saw the way things happened, to give histories in the book. And his account is that Rhaenyra has the hots for Kristen Cole. Kristen Cole likes her back, but he took an oath as a White Cloak, so he has to stay abstinent, kind of thing. But she has the hots for him. She goes to her uncle and says, hey, like, I have the hots for him. And he's like, let me take you to the brothel. I'll teach you some stuff to try to get him to sleep with you, kind of thing. And so it takes her to the brothel, and like, it's like, oh, this is how you kiss. This is how you can please a man. Like, doesn't have sex with her, but like kind of shows her the ropes of and this character Mushroom is there as well, apparently, in the scene.
Sounds great.
Yeah. And this Mushroom is just, even too in the book, he's like, my large member, and I'm like, of course you're writing about it, so you're saying that yours is big.
Now listen, I'm not one to brag, guys, but it's huge.
This is my story.
Tell me I'm wrong.
But so she goes to Kristen Cole and she, like, tries to put the moves on him, and he denies her because of his oath. Even though he likes her back, he denies her, and she gets upset and runs like somewhere else, and like runs into Sir Harwin Strong, and then ends up sleeping with him, and that's how she loses her virginity. And that's the same guy who catches her when she's running away from stealing the food. That's the same guy there. And that's the same guy from the last episode when she was coming in with the boar, the only guy who was like, hey, like, that's hot. Like, everyone else, like, you saw Jason Lannister, like, look horrified, all the other men look horrified, and he was like, hey. So, like, they're showing him in the background. He might be a more important character if they follow the book.
For sure. He's seen her walk in as well. So obviously they know that the hand would have left by then based on kind of this situation, based on these accusations where he knows that's true. So that'll definitely come up again. Also, something that I don't know if they're going to look more into it or address it more. You know, they did mention about the mother dying, that it was, you know, a tragedy or some kind of tragic accident. I was like, no, it wasn't. Like like he chose to kill her in that situation. So, and they haven't actually addressed that. The children have not addressed it with the father. Like, you killed our mother. So
I don't think she knows that he made that decision, though.
That's what I mean. I don't know if it will be addressed. That will be interesting if they do talk about that at all.
I think that will come up, and I think that will be the nail in the coffin for her and her father. Like, you can see the relationship starting to disintegrate. That's going to be the moment where I think she says, we're done, and it's civil war in our family at this point. I think that's going to be, and I think that might not be till like the end of the season. But
like, if she gets pregnant and then maybe she has to go through the same kind of thing, and her father's there, and he's like, oh, I've done it before. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but yeah, potentially.
Now, question to you both. Do you think she takes the plan T? Because if she takes it, she's kind of admitting that she had sex the night before.
I just got that. That's funny.
But she should take it because she did have sex the night before, so it'd probably be better for her to take it. But then if she does take it, she's admitting to doing it. Because like, if she doesn't take it, then it's kind of like, oh, maybe she didn't do it. So do you guys think she drank the plan T?
I don't think she did, no, because it's just more of an exciting story if she doesn't. I think she's going to say that she took it, but like, just throw it away or whatever. But I think that she's not going to take it. Yeah, because that just seems too convenient, because that whole situation will just go away then. But I think there will be consequences of this episode. So, I don't think she will take it, because I think that's more kind of exciting. She doesn't.
I'm kind of the same. I think if she does, I think it's kind of bad writing. But I also think that she's not going to take it because she knows it's not Daemon's if she is pregnant. So she's going to be like, well, I had sex. She's like, I think if she had sex with Daemon, she might. But because she knows she didn't, I don't think she's going to take it because she's not worried. And she figures, well, it's the Knights. Who fucking cares?
You know? But she's going to have to say it was his, right? She can't say it's the Knights.
But she knows that, well, I think
if she says it's the Knights, like, his head will be on a spike.
Yeah. So I think it's going to depend on, because I don't think we're doing a big time jump next week. The way things look in the preview for next week, like we see
she's
Otto,
not really aging, right? So
she's not aging, but also just the way Otto is talking to Alicent as he's like, looks like leaving the city. It looks like this is happening like right after he gets let go as the hand, and he's telling her, make sure your son is gets on the throne before he like leaves. I don't think we're doing a huge. We might be.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I think she's getting married next episode.
Yeah.
Which, seeing like the background too, we didn't get to see the marriage of Alicent and the king, and that dress was beautiful.
Yeah, there've been some like deleted scene footage and stuff like that was cut out of the episode. And yeah, I agree. I think she's because her dad tells her like, you're marrying
Laenor Valerian.
Thank you. So that we can just be done with this. I think she's gonna go ahead and go with it, because now she's like, well, if I am pregnant, at least now it'll look like it happened with my new husband. And there, boom, a pothole filled in. We're
problem solved.
Yeah. And there's rumors in the books too, because she has kids with Laenor, or like and I should put has as there and not during kids, but has it with Laenor. And there's rumors of whether it's Harwin Strong's, who she loses her virginity to in the book, or if it's Laenor's. So it's going to be interesting to think if Sir Kristen Cole is kind of taking both of that roles, or if she's going to add Harwin into the mix. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. I am super into the direction that this story has. Like I've been enjoying the show so far, but now that we're really starting to say, okay, let's get into the main plot of what's gonna be going on here. I'm very into the story they're telling now, and I like, this is the first time I think in this season that I'm genuinely like, oh, I can't wait for next week. Like up until now, it's been like, okay, I'm liking this. I want to see what happens in the next. Now I'm like, I really like, is it Sunday yet? Like I'm ready for the new episode, like right now. Any final thoughts, Soul? We'll start with you. Any final thoughts on this week's episode?
I think all the characters are very, very flawed in their own way, some more so than others. The king is a good man, but a bad king. And I think everyone else is out for their own kind of, like you saw with Otto Hightower and Alicent, and with the king kind of like the stuff that he's tried to create to get his grandson pretty much as the heir, or all these other like, oh, these guys don't care about me, they're not fawning over me, they're wanting my station. They want to go above their station by marrying me. It's not me, it's my title that they want. And so kind of seeing just the way people grab onto power, and then how people go towards power even when it's juxtaposed with like their love for a family member, because Daemon truly does love his family members, but I think he loves power more.
And Bogz, what about you? What final thoughts you got on this episode?
Yeah, really good character development episode. Obviously, with all the kind of betrayal, emotion, manipulation, all on show, all kind of flag bearers in Game of Thrones. And again, Paddy Considine, dealing with the kind of long play mutiny, or trying to overthrow via Daemon, via the hand, with the issues with his wife, with his daughter. I think it's portraying all different emotions, as well as like slowly dying as well, and being the king. Like I think he's so good. So yeah, he's my favorite. He's a standout, but they're all crazy characters. They're all messed up. So yeah, but he's the one that I say kind of wow. So after some of the scenes or him, I kind of look forward to the most to see, oh, what's his reaction going to be, or how's he going to handle it. But yeah, I'm liking all the main characters. Almost no action in this episode, and I still thought it was so good. So it just shows good storytelling, good characters, good story, and I'm in. And yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Mike, too, before I forget, kind of just the way they depict women's choice too in this show so far, and especially in this episode, it's very, very clever writing.
Yeah, I think this is some of the best writing we've seen in Game of Thrones. I mean, in a bit. And and I'm not just trying to say it like harp on the last season of Game of Thrones. I mean, the last few seasons of the show, the writing was a little messy, and I think that with the topics they're trying to cover within this world, they're being very clever with it, and I applaud them for that, because it's a touchy subject to try to write around, especially given the type of show that it is. So I'm curious to see how that theme continues in the rest of this season, and I'm curious to see just how we're going to continue to, like I said, continue to plant these seeds of the fall of the house of the dragon. So that's our review for this week's episode. We want to know what you guys thought, so make sure you hop down in the comments, let us know, tell us all the things you liked, all the things you didn't like, and make sure you like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll see you again next time here on Off the Wall. Bye.